How to Ski It podcast, episode 3. Cue the intro. That was a little more professional this time, huh?
I like it.
All right.
We'll just clip that out and use it at the beginning of every episode.
Every single episode. All right. I'm Dave from How to Ski It.
I'm Marcus.
We're a digital media company in Boulder, Colorado, and How to Ski It's our passion project.
I'm just going to clip that and put it at the beginning.
I know, but we established that in previous episodes.
Yeah, but what if somebody just found it this time?
They were going to pick it up before we got done. How to Ski It, episode 3. We're going to talk about soul skiing, all kinds of good stuff, as we've mentioned in our past episode. And here in Colorado, I believe also in Wyoming and also in Utah, the beginning of December, finally snow like Vail, Copper, Steamboat. I think Aspen got a little bit less than people, but those first four-mentioned resorts, like 30 inches of snow.
Yeah.
Ski season's going.
First big one of the year.
First big one of the year. And it was a sustained storm. So there was snow Thursday night. There was snow Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then the storms pulled out on Monday. And the good news from How to Ski It is we were able to get up there. So I went and braved I-70 on Friday in the middle of the day. So wise choice. Skied Copper Mountain Friday afternoon, and it was awful. I'll be honest. It was awful. It was dust on crust. If you fell, you were going to get skinned up. It was firm. But it was snowing, and it was a little bit better conditions than we experienced at Eldora a week ago. And it was winter. Like, it was finally winter, and top to bottom. So I got in, I think, like 9,000 or 10,000 vertical feet. So not a ton, but a good start.
Yeah, it's the amount you want, really.
But that's only where it started. So Saturday,
Oh, wait. Before you continue, you want to introduce yourself real quick?
I'm Dave from How to Ski It.
I'm Marcus.
We're a digital media company in Boulder, Colorado, and How to Ski It's our passion project.
I'm just going to clip that and put it at the beginning.
I know, but we established that in previous episodes.
Yeah, but what if somebody just found it this time?
They were going to pick it up before we got done.
All right, sorry. So you went to Copper on Friday.
Yeah, and if you were lucky enough to hear the first two episodes, you know that this year we not only bought mega passes, plural. We bought icon passes and we bought epic passes. And I have been clear. I bought an epic pass for the first time in forever so I could ski Vail. And Saturday I skied Vail, and I skied at least 10 inches of powder and runs that were just being opened for the first time of the year. I had my first double ejection, lost both skis, went in deep snow, because I didn't notice like it was a run that had just been opened. So I was expecting, 5, 6, 7, 8 inches of powder. And all of a sudden it was like 18 inches of powder. And then back to Vail on Sunday. And one of the best powder days I've had, since last year in Steamboat. So that's what I mean. Skiing is firing. They didn't have a lot open. They had their gondolas open and chair 3 and 4. But more than enough for soft skiing. And then where my weekend got interesting was if you're going to ski Vail on Saturday or Sunday, and Sunday it was quiet. There wasn't a lot of people there. And I found out why when I tried to leave. You got to get on the highway by like 11:30 on a weekend from Vail if you want to get home before like 9 p.m. And sure enough, I-70 was closed. So this is going to be the episode where we are going to trash I-70.
I'm super excited.
The Colorado Department of Transportation and their awful, horrible website, COTrip.org. And if you're from out of state, you might not have ever used COTrip. Just type it into your browser right now, COTrip.org, and you're going to be like, is this for real?
And then, just for fun, why don't you go see if I-70 is open? See if you can figure out that information.
See if you can figure out if I-70 is open. So the way I was able to figure it out is the old-fashioned way, as I got to the on-ramp, and the gate was down, And I'll be honest, I was like, oh, there must be construction or something at this on-ramp. And that wasn't the case. And there was like 4 or 5 inches of snow on the on-ramp. So it looked like it was closed for a while. And then it all started to make sense. No wonder there was nobody skiing at Vail. And apparently Vail Pass and up by the Eisenhower Tunnel, there was blowing snow. And at the top of Vail, it wasn't super bad. It was some really heavy snow falling straight down. But apparently up on these passes, it was like whiteout conditions. So it was really hard to figure out whether I-70 was open or closed. We were able to figure out it was closed. It just so happened my sister was in town, so we were trading text messages. And my sister and my brother-in-law, her husband, they didn't have their skis.
Oh, man. What a waste.
Yeah. So immediately when I found out I-70 was closed, I knew I wasn't going to make that cutoff of getting on the road. So something I don't know that I've really ever done before is I put my skis, boots, poles, pass all back on and went back out and skied the rest of the day. Kind of keep it in the back of my mind. Maybe we'll head home and just deal with the traffic. And it got to like late in the day, so we just decided to stay. And even though we have a ski van, we stayed in like a Hilton. I think it was called the Highline, which was super awesome, by the way. Kudos to those guys.
Can you imagine if you had gotten through the gate? Like you got there before they closed the interstate and then got stuck at the tunnel for 8 hours or whatever because of blizzard conditions?
And the news reports were about like 8-hour drives and stuff like that. And, you have to consider the fact that bad weather is going to cause weather problems. And that wasn't my complaint. My complaint was it was literally impossible to get any useful information from the Colorado Department of Transportation, whether I-70 was open or closed, and what the prognosis was. Understood, Mother Nature is unpredictable. So it wasn't that I expected an accurate prognosis, but there wasn't really anywhere you could get a prognosis of. There was conflicting information on COTrip, like it said Vail Pass, snow tires and chains required, but it also said somewhere else it was closed. So it was closed.
Now you told me a little bit about this backstory. How did you actually figure out? Because there was a site that could help you.
Yes, this is going to be the best tip I've given anybody that skis Vail or drives over Vail Pass. So I just figured there's got to be a better way. And I just Googled, is Vail Pass open? And lo and behold, it took me to a website that the URL is vailpassopen.com. And then go check it out. Surprisingly enough, it just says open or closed. And then it also has some auxiliary information on why it's open and closed. So that was super helpful. And then to sum up this long story short before we trash CDOT and everybody a little bit more, we're at the restaurant, the Highline Cafe, I believe it's called. And all of a sudden we see cars on I-70. And we're like, oh, I wonder if it's open. So I went to is vailpassopen.com. And sure enough, there it is. It's open. And I go to CDOT and it's like, it's still closed. But you could see that it was open, and it was open. So why in this day and age is it so hard if they have the ability to put this gate down that prevents you from getting on the road? Why is it so hard to get that information out to the public? And COTrip.org in Colorado has always been terrible. What does it take to make a website? We're a digital media company in Colorado. I feel like, honestly, we could make that website better in like a month. And I'm sure there's a lot of complexities and things of getting the info into the website, but it's just flat out inaccurate. And it reminded me of a time coming home from Ski Cooper last year that Apple Maps told me that the pass was closed and COTrip said it was open and Apple Maps was right. Like, do you hear what I'm saying? Apple Maps. Like nobody trusts Apple Maps for anything.
The worst one for directions was the correct one.
But it was better than COTrip. And that was another bad weather condition day. I get it. And it took us 8 hours to get from Leadville, Colorado to Boulder, Colorado, which is probably typical 3-hour drive, 4 hours in the winter on a bad day. But 8 hours was just insane.
I just pulled up the isvailpassopen.com and just big clear letters open. And then there's a little indicator underneath that says wet in areas. I don't like looking at especially this webpage, and then I opened COTrip as well, just comparing the two. And I get this is exclusively for Vail Pass, but why couldn't COTrip be here's a list of all the things you can search for which roads you're looking at? Because I don't need to see the entire state of Colorado at one time. I'd love to know if this road is going to be open.
Yeah, and they have to also balance, like Independence Pass is closed all winter. So when you go, what roads are closed? They're like Independence Pass. And you're like, no kidding.
Yeah, got it. Good catch.
And so, like, we know Independence Pass is closed. And I'm not saying that you bury that information, but I think the majorest interstate that goes through our state, which is I-70, being closed should have been like headline information.
Yeah.
So what is it about I-70? It's, did the mega passes cause this problem? And we go back and forth. I'm in love with my mega passes, by the way, from this weekend, because I skied Copper on Friday, which is an icon pass. And I skied Vail on Saturday, Sunday. And then remember,
and Monday, right?
Yeah. When I threw in the towel on making it home Sunday night, then I also canceled my Monday. Actually, that's not true. I did a conference call in the van in the Safeway parking lot and then went out and skied under sunny skies on Monday, which was the best of the 3 days because I'm older and white conditions are harder for me to see. But back to I-70, what is it with I-70 that we've got these traffic problems? And my understanding is they closed it from bad weather, not necessarily an accident. And that's probably what they're trying to be polite about is they're closing it because people can't drive or they're driving on Bologna skin tires or May Pops. Do you know why they're called May Pops?
Because they may pop any minute.
Because they may pop. And yeah, I mean, snow tires cost money, but you see how many, they don't patrol the semis very well. They say they do, but if you've ever been at the chain up area, there's usually on a bad day, Colorado State Patrol. Thank you for being out there. But at the same time, semis are just driving by without chains and the Colorado State Patrol is right there watching them. And then you get up to the top of like the pass and they're jackknifed or something like that. Yeah. So I don't know, there's no info on why they closed it, except that it seemed like it was very much a preemptive closure. And that's because there's too many bad drivers and too many unprepared vehicles in Colorado to drive on conditions that 10 years ago, nobody would have even considered a big deal.
Yeah, that's considered incredibly bad weather now, whereas 10 years ago, that was like, oh, it's winter.
And it was snowing hard. It was snowing an inch an hour, so we're talking about rough weather. But that's not the problem on I-70. It's too much traffic for a road that hasn't had any meaningful improvements. And when did they finish the second tunnel? So do you
want some history for I-70?
I do, because I know a little bit, but I don't. Break it down.
All right. So let's talk through a little bit of I-70. First off, in 1939, 1944, there was 2 separate reports submitted to Congress that were about interregional road systems, kind of the basis of interstate highways. And the east and west route ended in Denver. There was nothing going west out of Denver. And Colorado got super pissed off about it. And so let's see, what was the guy's name? The governor at the time, William Lee Noss, was who was described by the Denver Post as a very mild-mannered and good-natured gentleman. He said, and this is a quote, This map, which doesn't show a single road west of Denver, is undoubtedly the work of some pipsqueak bureaucrat in Washington who has never been west of the Mississippi.
Maybe.
So he fought for it. They wanted Colorado. CDOT wanted a road west of Denver going through the Rockies. They got approval for it. 90% of the cost was covered by the U.S., with the remaining 10% being covered by Colorado. This was during the construction of the interstate system in the U.S. Construction on the first bore of the tunnel, which was Eisenhower was first. Yeah, Eisenhower started in March of 1968, and surprising no one, it went over time and over budget. They didn't know that altitude would affect their equipment, because there's no way to know that. The initial cost estimate was $42 million. The actual cost was $108 million, equivalent to $546 million in 2022. And
Wow.
that's just for one bore.
Yeah.
The other bore was $102 million.
Because then they completed the other side, which now one is eastbound traffic and one is westbound traffic, and it's the Johnson Tunnel.
Correct. And that was, Eisenhower was completed in 73. Johnson was completed in 79. Yeah. And it's just didn't help.
And then I know CDOT, Colorado Department of Transportation, would debate whether there's been improvements. We've talked about, we added the toll lane. And so we went through like 5 years of traffic headaches for this toll lane that's only open 100 days a year and doesn't even cover the majority of the stretch of the busy section. It covers like a third of it. And so what can be done? I don't know. Like I-70 was great for Colorado. It was great for tourism. It developed that whole corridor. Everybody used to go around Colorado. I'm sure we all wish we could undo it. Well, I'm sure some people wish we could undo it, but it's here, but it's always an issue on top of CDOT, who, here's a little tidbit, and maybe you can look this up. Last year, I believe it was Independence Pass, they said was closed because of like a washout, when it wasn't, at the behest of Aspen residents. And that is like, you start to wonder, like, this is the Department of Transportation, like basically lying to us to accommodate certain people when it wasn't closed. Well documented. I'm sure the people that live at the base of Independence Pass were ecstatic about that. But when Glenwood Canyon is always closed because of washouts from forest fires, that's the way to get back to Denver, unfortunately, or the easiest way. Mm. So I don't know. We'd love to hear your thoughts. I mean, on I-70 and the Colorado Department of Transportation and COTrip. Yeah.
I definitely want some people to, especially if they've never experienced it, to go take a look at COTrip and let us know what they think.
It's not pretty. I'll give CDOT and COTrip and our civic leaders that have done nothing in 45 years. It is a complex situation. Tourism isn't just a big part of Colorado, but recently I think they said 2.5% of the national GDP is outdoor recreation, which is gigantic. It's way more than that in Colorado, because skiing and tourism is one of our big revenue drivers and stuff like that. So how do we keep it safe? How do we get people up there? Mass transit is a logical solution, but not anything that's going to happen in the short term. And speaking of mass transit, which this is not a solution, I did buy train tickets for February 9th to Winter Park. And that's going to be a How to Ski It day at Winter Park, that we're going to ride the train up there. And
I'm super excited for that.
No I-70.
Yeah.
No car.
Right?
Okay, well,
driving.
We have
to
to drive to downtown Denver.
See, but that's another thing. If there was a station like along my route, like before I get to I-70, if there was a way I could park and get on a train, like, or closer to my house, any way to get there with mass transit that I'm not having to lug my stuff onto a bus.
Yeah.
I what a great idea.
And I mentioned this growing up in junior high and high school. We did this Tommy Thompson Ski Buffaloes, and we rode a bus up to Winter Park every week, Mary Jane, every weekend as kids. I would do that again. I don't think it would be as successful because of now you're stuck on I-70. You're in a bus.
Yeah.
Which, if it's a nice motor coach and stuff in a bathroom, then you're probably good. But it isn't going to shorten that trip up. But maybe maybe this toll lane needs to be a bus lane.
Yeah.
And just for mass transits of like 10 or more or something. I don't know.
It's a good idea.
Would love to hear ideas. And it's something we're going to have to push our civic leaders towards fixing in Colorado. Not that a wider road or mass transit would have necessarily solved this weekend's problem of 30 inches of snow, but the communication could have been better. And like I said, I got to be brutally honest right now. The fact that I-70 was closed Sunday afternoon and night meant I got a ski day on Monday. And that's the best scam in the book, that you just, hey, I-70's closed. So does Tuesday morning work for you? So it worked out.
Yeah, I would say that the first step is without massive construction, you can't really do a lot to the road. There's obviously utilizing those express lanes. Mass transit's a great idea. But clear communication would go so much further in, honestly, just knowing what's going on would help a lot in I-70.
Yeah, and so that messaging of the road's going to open at 8 p.m. or we're hoping to have it open at 8 p.m. or, it could open any minute or whatever. I'm sure they don't want to get people's hopes up, but the communication was non-existent. But Vail hadn't been there in almost 10 years skiing, maybe 7 or 8 years. Love it. I've got a few hasty generalizations about Vail.
All right.
But these are things that I was able to observe. The staff at Vail was unbelievably nice and friendly, and I feel like there must be some extra training in to make the guests feel welcome. And I had the same impression at Copper Mountain on Friday, but I ski there all the time.
Yeah.
That the people at the Super B were super nice. But then at Vail, so you can use your phone as your ski pass on the Epic resorts.
That's cool.
So I was walking up going, oh, we'll see if this thing works. And they point this like RF gun at you, radio frequency kind of gun or something, and it reads it. But every time they mention your name, hey, Dave, thanks, Dave.
Huh.
Welcome, Dave.
Yeah.
And I assume it's customer service related, but maybe it's like, let's see if this person panics when we call him by his wrong name. I'd see him because I'm wearing goggles, a helmet, a buff.
Right.
They can't. My picture means nothing to what they're seeing, but they were very friendly. And then so I wouldn't call that a hasty generalization, but I rode maybe in the 3 days. I maybe had 8 gondola rides. No exaggeration, like 5 or 6 of them. Somebody politely asked if they could smoke weed. And I thought that was interesting because and maybe I don't ride gondolas enough, but the ratio was extreme. And then the other thing that I saw that I thought was super interesting is 9 out of 10 chairlifts. Somebody was like, bar's coming down. And I feel like the day before at Copper Mountain, nobody brought the bar down on any of the lifts I rode, but at Vail, it's almost every. And
interesting.
I'm prefacing these as hasty generalizations, so I'm not trying to say this is how it is. That's probably it for hasty generalizations.
That's fascinating.
Oh, I got 10,000 steps in a day just walking from where you have to park or get dropped off to the chairlift is a long ways. And I just realized the value of the replaceable treads on your ski boots. Because, when you get those worn off, they won't mount your skis. They'll be like, these boots are shot. But the last pair of Nordicas is what I ski on, came with extra treads. And those are going to come in handy if you ski Vail because it's heated walkways. So even when it's nuking, they're dry because it just melts up the snow and water and stuff. So anyway, enough about Vail. Let's talk about my amazing ski weekend.
And whenever he said we got to ski, what he meant is I got to ski.
I didn't prevent. So Ryan, who's not with us today because he was in Palm Springs working, but I didn't prevent you from skiing.
No.
And I saw Eldora got 5 one day. They got 8 the next. So I'm sure it's much better.
Yeah.
Steamboat, I think, was the big winner with like 35 inches out of this storm. Vail, I think, had like 27. Copper was right. They were all kind of in that area. Aspen, like I actually, where I spent the night, Saturday night, was over in Redstone, Colorado. We went to visit my mom for her 80th birthday. So when I woke up in the morning, I was like going to consider Aspen, but they reported 1 inch. And Vail was reporting like 8 or 10. So I headed back to Vail. So I actually did a lot of driving this weekend. And the roads were rough and everybody behaved pretty well. And I will give a shout out to the Colorado Department of Transportation for plowing roads and mag chloride. And, you know, they have that stuff down to a science. So I do appreciate that. I think I just hate
I-70.
COTrip, I-70, and any spokesman for the Colorado Department of Transportation or any civic leader that has had any say in anything to do with it since they finished the Johnson Tunnel. So
nice.
Well, the other thing we wanted to touch on for the 3rd episode in a row is the mega passes. I am a mega pass user. I am the problem because I, go up, drive up Ski Vale, clog up the mountain and stuff like that. Although there weren't a lot of people at Monday was the busiest day.
That's crazy. You said that Saturday and Sunday weren't that bad, and then Monday is swamped.
I left early Saturday because I needed to get over to Carbondale for my mom. We surprised her. So we all went to a restaurant, and then she didn't know we were there.
Nice.
My sister, brother-in-law, my wife. So I had to leave early, so I might have just missed the crowds. But Sunday, I skied all day. There were no crowds. And then Monday, it wasn't crowded, but the lift gates were like more than half full, 3/4 full. But remember, it was sunny. With
right, and it just nuked over the weekend.
27 inches of powder over the previous 3 days, so no wonder. Mega passes. I went, when you travel and you use Facebook, it shows you local content. So when I was in Carbondale, it showed me this article from the Aspen Times. And maybe tell me, because I shared it with you.
Yep. So the title of the article is, "Yes, your friends and family are part of Aspen's tourism woes."
So that's
the Aspen Times talking to their residents.
So they're talking to my parents who live in Pitkin County and complaining about me.
Yep.
Is the way I see it. And then that's essentially, they did a study and they said, and correct me if I'm wrong, this is what I took from the article.
Yeah.
The problem here isn't the billionaires and the people that are flat out on vacation spending Mac cash. It's your friends and the residents' friends and families that are coming up and maybe not spending Mac cash. Like my Mac cash in Vail is like parking.
Yeah.
And I don't mind paying their parking's reasonable. But I don't mind paying their $20 to $25 a day, whatever it is, because it's always great skiing and they have a good shuttle system, blah, 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 blah. But they don't like us from their study, correct?
Well, it's because it's written by a newspaper, the headlines and opening text are a bit more inflammatory than I think the actual report. They're not lying when they say it. But first off, this report was by the Aspen Chamber Resort Association. So I'm shocked that the Resort Association didn't find the resorts at fault.
Didn't bury this.
Yeah. Philip Morris never found a problem with cigarettes. So I am not surprised that this was their result, but it comes across way more inflammatory with the article title than I think they might have intended. I think it was more of a, hey, it's not just the tourists. You know that friends and family come as well, right? And then the one thing that was inflammatory, they were like, yeah, friends and family don't respect us as much, don't respect the mountain as much as our tourists. That was the thing that was like, come on.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like if respect for the sport and the mountain and outdoors and nature, and I take that to the extreme that I absolutely respect it.
And the majority of visitors friends and family visiting people who lived in Aspen, the majority came from the Denver, Boulder area. So they're claiming that people who live in Colorado and are being invited by their friends to Aspen to come visit friends are more disrespectful than the people who come on their own accord.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know.
Which I think is
the comments though.
Yeah. So I pulled 3.
So I got the article on Facebook because I'm like in Pitkin County for the day, and they're like, here's something you might be interested in. And read me some of the comments.
I pulled my 3 favorite ones, but we can go and look for more if you want. There were also some memes posted that were great. Jeremy Gore said, complaining about a place being crowded when you were there making it crowded.
Yeah. I mean, the city council and the people, or the CVB, whatever it is, they don't have any family or friends that come and visit.
Right. Well, and their entire goal is to get tourists to come in, but then they're complaining because tourists come in, but the tourists they're complaining about don't spend the money.
And one thing we might have left out of this tangent is they did a study last year, and we'll dig that up for you. True study. They wanted to have the impact of the Icon Pass, and it kind of backfired because, well, I think they were actually doing it to try to get the locals to like, this isn't the problem. And it was an insignificant number. It was like 2 or 3% of all the skier visits were Icon Pass. And I think they expected to see some crazy number of 25% or something. And I don't know what the purpose of the study, but it turned out it wasn't the mega pass, but more just the explosive growth of skiing. Aspen is globally like one of the pinnacles of skiing. Like when you talk about skiing, you're talking about Aspen and Vail and Chamonix and, Jackson Hole and Heavenly.
Yeah.
Those are the big, huge, I want to go there places.
Yeah. I Googled it. I'll see if I can figure that out before we load out.
We need to have my dad or mom on the podcast because they're very much activists in Pitkin County for conservation and protection of. So we don't always see eye to eye on everything, although I think my parents kind of stand, or my dad especially, kind of stands where I do of like, we're not big fans of ski area expansion, but the Heroes Lift in Aspen might be kind of cool. And that brings up one other super cool skiing related thing I saw this week, and I shared it with you also, was we've already talked about unofficial networks, and they're like an aggregator of information on skiing. And they had an article which referenced a video that you can watch from Peak Rankings about the best improvements last year in North America, the top 25. And they did a deep dive on the top 25. Like, they didn't just say, hey, they added a chairlift. They added a chairlift here. Here's what it does. Here's the capacity. Here's the vertical. Here's who it services.
It is awesome.
It is awesome. And I only remember like 1 and 2. And number 2 was the new 6-man Lenawee lift, which I agree with everything they said. I'm sad to see the 3-man chair disappear at Arapahoe Basin on Lenawee, but I'm super happy to get that lift ride over with quick because it's so cold always. And then there was another one, which I'm not super familiar with, in Idaho. Why can't I think of the name of the ski area on the other side of the hill from Jackson? We'll have to edit this part out where we forgot some of the ski areas we wanted to go ski this year. So this is where we're going to edit back in, I hope.
And action.
And then they also talked about a new lift at Grand Targhee, which they, like the folks at Peak Rankings talked about, they're a little uneasy about seeing the cat skiing going away, but then at the same time, like a high-speed detachable quad servicing an area that was unserviced unless you did cat skiing. And so anyway, check out Peak Rankings. We'll check out unofficial networks, but also check out peakrankings.com, and you can see this, what were the best improvements in North America. I can't wait to see next year and where this Heroes Lift in Aspen ends up.
Yeah. And I'll put a link to this Unofficial Network's article that has that video in our description. So if you want to check it out, it's like a 30-minute video. If you love skiing, it's worth it. Even if you've never been to any of the areas, it's so fun to watch.
Yeah, and the super fascinating was the stuff near Tahoe that the fires removed all the trees, and they talked about how we lost some really good tree skiing, but picked up some great bowl skiing.
Yeah.
And so as much as, nobody wants to have the forest fire, but now that it's happened, there's like these, and they have great video. They must ski with GoPros nonstop. Yeah. I'm impressed.
It's awesome.
Peak rankings. Kudos. We want to do what you do someday.
Yeah, that's the goal.
So what's next for How to Ski It? I think we mentioned last week, we're going to Florida and there isn't going to be any skiing. And we made the mistake of signing up for a triathlon in Central Florida next week. And as I mentioned,
next week, that's this week.
Well, yeah. Okay.
Well,
so we're leaving tomorrow.
Yeah, we leave tomorrow.
And if you're a skier in Colorado, whenever we leave town for the wrong reasons, it's going to snow. So I would plan to ski on Sunday. We'll be in Haines City at Ironman 70.3 Florida, getting fit for ski season.
Yeah,
exactly.
The way I
look at it.
That was the point. That's why we did this. And it wasn't a bad choice to take away an entire week of skiing potential. No, this was on purpose.
Yeah, it was on purpose. If I could undo it with credibility, I would stay home and ski like I see Saturday, Sunday forecast. And then obviously if you can swing a Monday, there's less people.
Yeah.
Anything else we need to cover on episode number 3 of How to Ski It?
I have 2 more things I got to add.
I want to hear it.
My 2 other comments I pulled on that article.
Oh, I forgot. Let's hear them.
Because
we're back to Aspen, and
don't
Aspen. Come if you're friends and family of a resident or a worker.
So I just got 2 more comments. Bill Metick said, "You are servants. Servants are not allowed to bring family to town. Servants are not allowed to bring friends to town. Please respect our billionaires. If you cannot abide by these common courtesies, we will revoke all employees' ski passes. Thank you."
I mean, I'll be honest. Obviously, it's a facetious comment. It's kind of what I heard when I read the article.
I don't think you're alone. I think a lot of people were very offended by it. Last comment, and personally, this one's my favorite. Seeley Pratt. Obviously, Aspen needs to set expensive tolls to keep the poors out. The local elites, of course, will be exempt.
That is also how I read that article. So we're going to keep talking about the conflict of mega passes. And I know that Aspen article wasn't necessarily about mega passes, but for which I'll acknowledge is a big number, $2,000. I've got ski passes to everywhere. Like there's very few places that I don't get at least like 5 days.
Yeah.
Much less Vail Unlimited.
Yeah. You know what? I will add one more thing. That peak rankings video that we're just talking about, one of the interesting things they said is like certain of these ski lifts that they love add more advanced skiing, but advanced skiers aren't the people who spend the money on the mountain. So it doesn't necessarily help the tourism economy for the mega passes. So what we should look for the next time we talk about mega passes is how many people buying mega passes are advanced skiers. And we can interpret that they're probably not spending as much money on the mountain. How many people are getting into skiing and buy a mega pass, and they're more likely to purchase things on the mountain.
Yeah, I think advanced skiers, this is a hasty generalization, but in general are like more what like in running or climbing is a dirt bag. Like they'll sleep in their car. They'll do, they're there for the powder and everything else comes in after that.
Yep.
And I kind of fit that category. I keep a cooler in my van, so I don't buy a lot of drinks or things. And then I did go out to eat when I was in Vail. I went to Los Amigos. And what's funny is, like I said, I haven't skied Vail in 10 years, but 20 years ago, that was like our stomping grounds was Los Amigos.
Yeah.
And it's this Mexican restaurant right at the base of it used to be called the Riva Bon, and I think it's called Gondola 1 now. And then you can watch people crash down this run called Pepe's Face. So Pepe's Face wasn't open yet because a lot of the bottom of Vail's not open yet. But Los Amigos hasn't changed at all in 20 years.
That's amazing.
So I'll still be going to Los Amigos, even though there's not a ton to write home about except location.
You know what? We've got to go ski and make a video on that run. You
Pepe's Face?
Yeah.
I dare you to ski Pepe's Face because it's low. Like the base of Vail is like under 8,000 feet, I believe. And then it gets warm. And then Pepe's Face, which is really steep. So the sun doesn't, it's steep enough that it's like late January before it gets quality sunlight. And it just turns into ice. And so, Los Amigos, out on the sun deck, watch people that didn't know what Pepe's Face was crash down Pepe's Face. So it's an insider tip from how to ski it.
I love it.
All right. So we're going to get back to you next week, but with probably very little new information. I'm going to try to ski on Tuesday next week. I get home from Florida on Monday, and I think Eldora is going to start to have some better skiing, if not make it up to Mary Jane. I think we left them out of this big snow total. They got 30 some inches at Mary Jane Winter Park. They had the big single day dump on Sunday of 15 inches.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's nuts.
They're probably pretty close to, I bet there's bumps at the Jane right now.
I'm excited for more of the resorts to open. Not more number, but more acreage.
More acreage.
Yeah.
And we're still looking at you, Sun Valley. I saw a video of somebody going up the chairlift at Sun Valley, and they were riding over sagebrush at the bottom. And again, it's a big mountain, so like you get up near the top, and it's far different game. But let us know when you're ready for us, Sun Valley.
All right. Before we cue that exit music, be sure to follow How to Ski It. It is at How to Ski It on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. I'm never going to call it X. Twitter. And what's the TikTok? The one all the kids are using.
The one all the kids are using.
Yeah. And we'll post some photos and some videos of what Dave was talking about hitting this weekend with all the snow. So be sure to check those out and see what it all looks like.
Do you know what we left out of the podcast today?
What?
The weasel.
Oh my gosh. Here, just tell the weasel story. I'll cut it and put it somewhere.
Okay. So one of the most unique things that happened to me skiing at Vail on Sunday is, and it was my last run, and I was skiing down an unnamed run. I don't know all the runs at Vail. And there were some medium, small bumps. And right in front of me, a little miniature weasel runs out, attacks a mouse that was on the run. Like, so the mouse is running away, and the weasel attacks him and does some kind of jiu-jitsu move because he just killed him immediately. Like, he didn't fight him. And I'm trying to like hit the brakes and comprehend what is happening. So then the weasel kind of panics and takes off. And he leaves the mouse. And so I get my phone out, and I'm like, I'm going to take a picture of this mouse because at least you might believe my story if I have a picture of the mouse. So I take my phone out, and I'm taking a picture of the mouse, and lo and behold, the weasel comes back out to get the mouse. So then we'll add the video to our How to Ski It YouTube channel, and you can check it out. And then the weasel grabs the dead mouse, and he's running across the run. And I've got this cool video of him running across the run. And then a skier most likely just maybe runs him over.
It definitely looks like he gets nailed by the skier.
The coolest thing about the weasel is that he was able to run on top of the snow, but go underneath at a moment's notice. And I have video of that. So we'll share the video on our How to Ski It YouTube channel. But ski karma is real.
Yeah.
Like it made my whole day. And then I ended up doing one more run, and I was telling people on the gondola about it, and they just looked at me like, whatever, dude. These are the guys at Vail smoking weed, of course.
Right.
So I showed them the video, and they were just like, oh my God, that is so crazy. So
I got a good laugh when you sent it to me.
Yeah. Skiing the bumps, and a weasel attacks a mouse in the fall line.
All right. So be sure to follow How to Ski It on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, Twitter, and YouTube. Forgot to add that one last time. All of those are at How to Ski It. We're going to post some stuff from Dave's adventures this weekend. We will continue to post new content, so follow us. Be sure to share this podcast with all your friends and family. Anyone you know that loves skiing, go ahead.
It'll get better.
It will get better. As we promise every week, it'll probably get better. And that is how you ski it.